Hi, Abraham. I thought I was going to be okay sitting here. Now I'm a little nervous.
You will be fine.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a hair blowing back experience. But
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Thank you. A year ago in December, I was introduced to you. Well, I'm sure I've always known you, but to your tapes. That was not a coincidence, because then on January 3rd, my lover of 18 years suddenly passed away. And I have been listening to you every day since then. Otherwise, I would probably be in a padded room right now. And
those lovers, they have so much nerve to just up and die.
You're not kidding.
They get you attached to them, and they're so sweet, and they evoke from you your connection, and then they drop you like a puppet whose strings have been cut. In other words, it's sort of the problem with your life depending upon somebody else. You sort of can't depend on anybody else.
she was joy. She was what you talk about. And I'm sure she went with you. Are you aware of her?
We can feel her intensely.
She was intense. And I can feel her. I don't know if I'm always comfortable with that.
There are so many things that we want to give you about this.
Oh.
We were toying and yet not as we were teasing about those buggers, all those physical human buggers dying. They all do, every one of them. The trick is to meet up with those that are so much younger that your odds are that you'll croak first. But what we're really wanting to say to you is that anyone who is close to you that makes you feel joy in interacting is someone who is already, at least in that moment, connected to Source, and they are sort of like jumper cables to you to help you connect to Source. But it is always that connection to that which you really are that brings about your joy. And as we talk here today about deliberately paying attention to the way you feel and reaching for the best thought that you have available, the best feeling thought that you have available, what happens with just a few days, really 30 days is enough to apply it if you're diligent and determined about it, you can show yourself that that feeling that you often receive through loving another is available to you at all times, no matter what. And often that's what the death experience provides for you, is when there's someone that you adore who makes their transition and you start turning your thoughts toward them. In order to reconnect with them, you have to release resistance, because they have reemerged into a place where they are resistance free. And so you cannot be in resistance and have that connecting experience. You would have so much preferred that she had stayed than that she had gone. But once that initial grief lifts a little bit, as it always does as time passes, as you refocus in other areas, you begin to reclaim your power again. And now we think you are determined to reclaim it in an even fuller way than you have before. We really like it when people that you love make their transition, because it causes you to turn your attention toward that which they now are, which is that which you really are. We would love it if you would come to the place that we have come to, of understanding that there is no death, and therefore there need never be any separation. Never any separation. Most of what you have in relationships is a vibrational connection anyway. And while we do know that it's nice to be in an environment where you can see each other and smell each other and touch each other and lick each other, it is nice that you have the opportunity to interact with each other in this visceral physical way, that your emotional relationship is really the basis of the relationship. For you are all eternal beings. And these connections that you make with some people in this way that feel so powerful are relationships that are only extensions of the relationships that you have had for a very, very long time. They are eternal relationships. They never go away, you see. And so the only question that you're wanting to ask yourself is, how am I doing relative to my relationship with who I am? Because when you reclaim your relationship with who you are, your discomfort will all go away. Sometimes we think that our physical human friends are annoyed at our basic message, but we keep telling it anyway, because it is the only way that you will ever find consistent joy while you're here in this physical body. And here is the basis of the message that we are wanting you to remember. You are source in this physical body. And when you are letting nothing be more important than your relationship with your source, every other relationship will fall into alignment. But until you make that your number one, in fact, only priority, then no other relationship will ever quite be enough. And what happens sometimes is, before you know about this relationship between you and who you really are, sometimes you meet joyful people who substitute that relationship, but then you can't count on them because they don't hang around often as long as you do. So what we are getting at is, the love that you feel is always the way you feel when you are choosing a thought that causes you to offer a vibration that makes you in perfect vibrational sync with the energy that is really you. In other words, that feeling of love and that feeling of appreciation means that the thought that you have chosen has you in your vibration right now in perfect alignment with the vibration that is really you, so there's no discord between you and you. And that's what the optimum experience is. The optimum experience, whether you are physically focused or not, is being in vibrational alignment with that energy that is source. And so what we're saying to you is, if you are looking at a lover who is dead and feeling the absence of that, in that attention to that, you are disconnecting from your energy stream, and that is what equals grief. The emotions that you feel are always and only about your allowing of your energy stream. It's sort of like plugging the toaster in. If the toaster isn't plugged in, it doesn't make toast. And if you're not connected to who you really are, you don't feel the joy that is natural to you. And so many people for so long have given all kinds of other things the reasons for the way they feel. I feel this way because of you, or I feel this way because of that, or I feel this way because I won the lottery, or I feel this way because I bought a new car, or I feel this way because I'm drunk. And what we're wanting to say to you is, you feel the way you feel always because of your allowance or disallowance of the vibrational connection to the source energy stream that is you. Period. That's all it has ever been about. That's why you can suffer the grief and loss of someone, get distracted from it for a minute, and actually feel joy, even though the person is still dead and the circumstances haven't changed, you see. And once you get to the place where you understand that, here it is, that you can control the way you feel, because you can direct your thought, now and only then are you truly and utterly free. Think of the bondage that you feel when you are bound in love for someone that you cannot rely on to be there always. In other words, that's really sort of scary, isn't it? To love somebody who might run off, or love somebody that might get run over by a steamroller. To love somebody who might do something different than stay right there in your experience where you can love. In other words, we want you to love them, but we don't want loving that person to be more important than knowing your emotions and knowing that you can change the way you feel by directing your thought. So sometimes lovers who are soulmates come together, and one makes a quicker reemergence into non-physical in order to assist the other in reclaiming their connection to source energy. That's what unconditional love is. Unconditional love says, no matter what, I can choose a thought that keeps me hooked up to source. Conditional love says, I need you to always stay alive in my life, and to always be there for me, and to always say the right things, and to always bring me flowers. I need you to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And when you meet all that criteria, then I will be happy. And we say, no, you won't, first of all. And second of all, you cannot put your happiness in the hands of any outside circumstance. It has to be in your own hands. And when it is, then you are powerful. Then you are empowered. Then there's no place you cannot go. Then all is well under all conditions. Then you can live in this world. Then you can live in this world of contrast and comparison and differences. Then you can endure the absence of some things that you have formerly enjoyed. Conditional love says, I need all these conditions to be just right. And we say, oh, you work so hard for something that you can never achieve. We need all the people of the world to think just like we do, and then we'll be happy. So we will slowly obliterate those that don't agree with us. And then we'll just be left with this handful who do agree with us, and then the world will be a perfect place. And we say, then the world will be a limited place. And even out of your samenesses will be born differences, because expansion is inevitable. You have to embrace expansion, which means you have to embrace difference, you see. Which means it has to be all right for things you don't want to occur in order for you to understand things that you do want to occur. It has to be all right that it all happens, and you will find your freedom in being able to direct your thought. And in directing your thought, you will be able to choose the way you feel. Everything is about the way you feel. We said it earlier. There's nothing that you want. Relationship, circumstance, event, physical condition, there's nothing that you want for any other reason that you think in the having of it, you will feel better. And when you show yourself that you can feel on purpose, do you realize that that's where the unconditional love comes? And then there's no place that you cannot go. Your children can be disobedient, and we hope they are. We want them to disobey you, and we want them to be guided from within. Because if you convince them to obey you, you convince them to set aside their own guidance. And now they will someday be as lost, because you're not going to hang around their whole life. You're not going to be there. You're not going to be there to let your guidance system guide them. You've got to introduce them to their guidance system, you see. And you've got to trust that their guidance system will guide them. It will. It always does.
A few weeks after Gail passed over, I was down by the rocks, and I received, like you talk about, a block of information. And because when I was thinking, this is the most difficult thing I've ever been through in my life, and then I got, no, this is the biggest challenge you will ever have in this physical life. And
challenge your interpretation. What was offered was opportunity.
Okay.
In other words, if you're feeling confident and something like that shows up, then you say opportunity. If you're feeling defeated and something like that shows up, then you say challenge, even though it's the same thing.
But the next thing I got from that was that, in essence, at 47 years old, to go through that opportunity challenge, all right, that equals freedom. To go through the biggest thing you'll ever go through. The rest of my life will be a piece of cake.
We would put it in, well, that's one way of interpreting it, and it's an accurate way, but we would put it in this way too. To discover that I can experience joy again, even under these conditions, gives me utter freedom. Because, you see, when you think about it, you are powerful, you are empowered, and you are free. And nothing feels worse than the perception that you are not powerful, that you are not empowered, and that you are not free. You are so free you can choose bondage. In other words, the world responds to your vibration. The world responds to the direction of your thoughts. So you're utterly free. And discovering that is everything. And that was the block of thought that you received. To discover that you have the freedom to choose. And that's why we want you to revel in the angry, angry, angry choice, because it feels better than the depression. Because in that simple choice, you've discovered freedom. I can at least breathe now, you say. And I don't give a rip that you don't like the way I'm behaving. I feel better. And you don't know. You don't know that I've just made great progress and I'm on my way to Yuma now. And I'll keep going all the way to San Diego. But no one outside of you can know the improvement in your emotions, you see. Very good. Good time for a segment of lunch. We are complete.